According to the LA Times, the average American home has 300,000 belongings. According to the US Department of Energy, 25% of people with two-car garages don't have the room to park their cars, and 32% only have room for one car. And the average size of the American home has almost tripled in size over the past 50 years. And often more space means more stuff. It goes to show how many of us have so much stuff. Think about, how much we have storage facilities or storage areas in our home. And the thing is, I don't think we should be blaming ourselves. It's become a societal norm. And there are lots of factors that drive us to collect and to develop a cluttered lifestyle. So today I want to share a handful of factors that really are clutter drivers and lead us to collect more. There are obviously a lot more factors in this, but I think thinking about what causes our clutter can actually help us manage it better and prevent more clutter from developing. I also come at this from a place of empathy. I myself have what I call a sticky brain. I tend to like to collect. And it's only in the past couple of years that I've really worked hard to whittle down the amount of stuff I have. And I'm on this journey with you if you're somebody that's kind of in the midst of it. Anyway, enough about me. Let's get down to these factors that can cause clutter. I think a first factor that can contribute to clutter is failing to recognize clutter as a problem. It's simply become such a norm, especially in the US, to have way too much stuff. Sometimes we can get so used to a way of living that we don't realize how difficult it's making our lives and how much we have to work to take care of and clean up our stuff. We don't realize how much time we're spending on our objects, cleaning, tidying, putting things away in overflowing closets or cupboards. We're not taught in school about the effect objects can have on us, or really any organizing or decluttering tips, and then we're just left to our own devices to figure out how to wade through the piles and piles of stuff. We just don't tend to learn that having more stuff can lead to more headaches. When we're in a culture steeped with ads, in a culture of collecting, we can end up just naturally accumulating and not realize the effect it's actually having on us and our lives. Once we begin to realize it, once we recognize that clutter and stuff can actually be part of the problem and stress in our lives, we can do something about it. And I think that's a real silver lining. And if you're watching this video, it's possible that you are on that journey towards making that turn and trying to reduce the amount of stuff you have. I think a second factor that can contribute to clutter is the ease with which high-quality products are now readily available and producible. As technology improves, it becomes easier to produce really high-quality objects and also to send them to people very quickly through online shopping and shipping. And through all of this, it becomes easier and cheaper to accumulate more. In the last 50 years, I would argue that the amount of stuff the average American has greatly skyrocketed. And it's not just by chance. Technology and how we relate to each other and how we're able to accumulate has really affected that. Society overall has affected that. So in a way, it's a comfort. I do think it's not all our faults. I think that with ads, with how easily it is to just click and order something online, it becomes very natural and second nature to accumulate. But it also means that we need to work that much harder to fight against the current of stuff flowing into our homes. The third factor is that more clutter means you need more stuff. I know this one sounds backwards, but I actually think that as you accumulate more, it allows you to want or even need to accumulate more, because when you have more, sometimes it's harder to find the thing that you need at the moment you need it. Like, how often is it that you need a pair of scissors and you have 5 running around the house, but you just can't seem to find a single pair of scissors when you need it? I think when we have more clutter and everything's just disorganized and everywhere, it becomes more difficult to remember where things are, to remember you even have certain things, and then you end up collecting more. In addition, as you collect more, it just feels easier and easier to order stuff online or pick it up at a store on the way home. And so as you collect more, you just need or want to collect more and more. The more you have, the more you need, the more you want. It just gets into this cycle of behavior, of psychology, of society, where we just keep accumulating more and more. So interestingly, I guess I'm arguing the stuff itself leads us to collect more. The third factor that contributes to clutter is the need for novelty, that human desire to have something new, to have something fresh, to have something interesting. And what's interesting is that quite often anticipation provides more reward in the brain than an actual stimulus does. So often it's that anticipation of getting something new and exciting and novel that gets us all riled up and hopeful and excited and looking toward the future. But then once we get that thing, it loses its power and we're off to look for a new exciting thing. But I do think that if we can intentionally focus on enjoying the things we have, it becomes easier to not have that urge as much. But it does take some effort to actually spend the time thinking about, why do I like this item I have? Why am I excited about it still after having it for 3 years? With every object we have, at some point we thought it was a good idea. So if you want to reduce your stuff and really be content with what you have, try to remember why you liked something in the first place. The fifth factor I want to mention is a cultural trend towards not repeating, or no outfit repeating, or just reinforcing people for having something new. How often do we compliment each other on new cars, new houses, new outfits? There's often this feeling of that we need to one up, where we need to always be having something new in order to impress, in order to connect with other people. And the funny thing is, I think this is partially an illusion. Because when you actually think about how you judge other people, how often are you actually judging them on their new outfit or their new car versus how much you're judging them on how they treat you and their integrity and their wisdom and how much fun they are? Like, what do you actually judge people on? Is it their new car, or is it who they are and how they treat the people around them? So I do think that this one is a little bit misleading and doesn't actually reflect reality the way we think. This is closely related to my next factor. It's that desire to connect with others. I think that's a huge cause of clutter. Ultimately, it's that human desire to have self-worth, and often self-worth via other people validating us. And often we think the way to get other people to validate our self-worth is through our stuff, through compliments. And I think it is kind of tragic in that we can spend so much of our hard-earned money on things that we think will allow us to connect when they're not really the things that allow us to connect on a deeper level as humans. I mean, don't get me wrong, we all like compliments, but at the end of the day, that's not what genuinely, authentically allows us to connect. And I think often those short-term compliments are just easy ways to kind of get that little hit of praise from somebody, that feeling of, oh, they like me. If they compliment me, they must be on some level impressed by me or appreciate me or enjoy me or like my stuff or my taste. But often a compliment is a genuine desire from that person to connect with you on a real level that's just cloaked in superficiality. Like, do they really care about that new sweater? Or are they just trying to make you feel good because they like you? So I think it's important to remember that sometimes we tend to get reinforced for those superficial things, our belongings, but really the reason for the compliment might not even be that thing at all. And maybe the real way to connect with people is to listen and to talk to them and to relate to them and to be genuinely invested in their story and their perspective. I also think related to this, sometimes we use our stuff to express something about ourselves. Maybe it's status, maybe it's preferences, maybe it's taste in art or music or sports or whatever. And maybe on some level that does affect how people judge us or how we navigate the world. But at the end of the day, I do think that constantly accumulating more and more won't affect that too much. You can do that same thing with fewer belongings, at least in my opinion. Another factor is actually finding the time to declutter or the motivation. There can also be a lot of logistical barriers. If you have a garage full to the brim with stuff, does it suddenly feel a lot harder to reduce the amount that you have? Of course it does. It makes it more challenging to actually get started when you have more stuff. And I think especially in the context, at least here in the US, of sort of this work hard culture where the more hours you work, the more impressive you are, at least among some circles, I think it can be hard to find the time to prioritize reducing our stuff and getting it to a relaxed, clear baseline. And again, that's not our own faults. I think it's society's and what we tend to value. But for me, I think pursuing minimalism is also about freeing up time and having a more slow living approach where I'm leaving time for relaxation, for spending hours with friends and family whom I really care about. And I just think it takes kind of pulling ourselves out of that societal mindset to be working harder, more hours to make more money, to buy more stuff, to connect with other people? What if instead we could try to reduce how much stuff we have, be content with what we have, not have that need to be constantly buying more things, so that maybe we don't need quite as much money, so that maybe we can spend more time not working and actually enjoying the people close to us? I think it's just this cycle that society has created, and it's just about deciding to break out of it. And you don't have to totally break out of it. You can decide to what degree, but I think if we can refocus our priorities and really focus on giving ourselves the motivation and therefore the momentum to declutter, it can really help us actually reprioritize our life and focus on the things we care about. I think another factor that really impacts our clutter is linking memories, emotions, and even people with our stuff. I have to admit, I've historically done this a lot, where I'm going through declutters and there are sentimental items that belonged maybe to people who passed away or people I want to remember in my life, even if they're still far away from me. And I've realized that that's really tough, that I've often linked emotions and people and memories to my stuff. And I don't know what it is. There is this inherent human thing where we care about our stuff. I don't know how to describe it, but I mean, the fact that we have museums as a society, the fact that we like to look at things and somehow it takes us back to that place. And I do think that there is something beautiful about that. But I think that sometimes that human need to attach something to our stuff, to have a tangible token that memorializes something, can go awry and lead us to be keeping so much stuff that it actually gets in the way of our lives. I think it is so helpful to remember that this object is not this person. This object is not this memory. There are other ways to honor people, to remember people or memories or experiences. And often it's in ways that'll take up less space and actually be more meaningful. I just don't think we should hold onto objects out of guilt or fear of losing that person or that memory, because in the long run, there are other ways to honor and remember things about our past. And also, I think that way of thinking discounts the future and all we have to look forward to. Because do we want to fill up our lives with organizing, decluttering, re-decluttering our stuff, or do we want to start living? Well, that's pretty much all I have for you today, but if you enjoyed this video and you want more content on minimalism and building an empowering mindset and just kind of simple living, you can hit the subscribe button below. And if you ended up liking the video, please hit the thumbs up button. Both those things really help to support the channel and it would mean a lot. It really would. And also feel free to comment below. I'm not able to respond to all the comments all the time, but I promise you that even if I don't always respond, often I'm reading them and learning something from them and appreciating your support or your thoughts or your reflections or your experiences. I learn a lot. And also, if you want even more content, you can join my Patreon community and my Instagram, which are both linked below. Joining those communities really supports me, so I would really appreciate it if you have any interest. Anyway, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.